Good afternoon. Professor Daniel Mashau, our Executive Dean, Faculty of Engineering and the Built Environment. Professor Arnesh Telukdarie, our inductee. Professor Babu Paul, our respondent. It's also the Director of the Intelligent Systems Institute of the University of Johannesburg. Our online audience on YouTube and Facebook. Senior leaders of the university, members of Senate and other academics, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Sani Bonani, goeienaand, good evening, Tobela. It is indeed a great honor and special privilege for me to welcome you to the Professorial Inaugural Lecture of Professor Arnesh Telukdarie. As I do so, I wish to express a warm word of welcome to his loved ones, special guests and colleagues. This is indeed a proud and joyful, yet a landmark moment for all of you, for Professor Arnesh, and of course for us here at UJ and higher education in South Africa and beyond. The inauguration of professors is a public ceremony in which newly appointed professors are inducted into office by the Vice-Chancellor or Vice-Chancellor functionary and deliver their inaugural addresses. The ceremony has its roots in the medieval university and serves multiple purposes, of which I will highlight two. Firstly, it is an expression of welcome and an entry for new professors joining the circle of colleagues who are already professors. And secondly, it provides a platform for the professors to display their expertise in the discipline and showcase their research. Today we gather to bear witness to the entry of Professor Telukdarie to the illustrious community of scholars at our university and beyond. It is a celebration of the contributions to the discipline and ultimately the impact on society. Professors provide the university with its identity, character, and academic legitimacy and integrity. The inaugural lecture is a rite of passage following the confirmation of the appointment of the person as a professor. This evening, we will listen to Professor Telukdarie, as we say, as the gown goes to town. By this I mean, ladies and gentlemen, that the power of the inaugural address is when the expertise is showcased beyond the corridors of the university and reverberates within society. It stands out as a moment of pride for the incumbent, the family, fellow scholars, the university, and ultimately society. For the German philosopher and diplomat Humboldt, a university referred to the whole community of scholars and students engaged in a common search for truth. Newman talked about teaching universal knowledge. Recently, universities have been viewed as instrumentalist, serving the purpose of the economy or utilitarian in purpose. I would hope that we can break out of these narrow conceptualizations and reflect on the university as contributing to the public good. Edward said in an article entitled On Defiance and Taking Positions, offers a formulation of the ideal role of the true intellectual as follows, and I quote, "One who commands the vast knowledge of his/her discipline, who is rigorous in the analysis of literature, who views being an intellectual as a vocation, the intellectual who considers it necessary to step into the public sphere and to speak truth to power, namely to question, interpret, and understand authority rather than consolidating it, to step out of the boundaries of the academy, to connect oneself, to affiliate oneself, to align oneself with an ongoing process or contest of some sort perhaps, with the aim of improving the lot of the oppressed, the intellectual who functions as a kind of public memory, to recall what is forgotten or ignored, to make the connections that are otherwise hidden, and to provide alternatives for mistaken policies." Close quote. This evening we will listen to Professor Telukdarie as one further step in the journey of being a professor. And Professor Arnesh, I want to highlight to you, this is a journey which does not culminate once this lecture has been given. It is a self-reflective pause in the journey of the professor, with a promise of more to enrich our minds and simultaneously contributing to the rich intellectual body of work in the discipline. Let me now invite our Executive Dean, Professor Daniel Mashau, to introduce Professor Telukdarie. I thank you, Ria Leboga, Siyabonga, baie dankie.
It's indeed my pleasure, on behalf of the Faculty of Engineering and the Built Environment, and also on behalf of the university, to introduce to you our inductee today, our newest full professor today, Professor Arnesh Telukdarie. Professor Arnesh Telukdarie is a professor of the Postgraduate School of Engineering Management at UJ. He is also appointed as an adjunct professor at Johns Hopkins University and as a visiting scholar at London South Bank University. Born in Durban, he has completed a doctorate in technology at the Durban Institute of Technology. He has held various academic and industry positions, including the most recently senior manager at Sasol. He has headed up the Sasol Global Manufacturing Systems team. In his early education, he had a deep interest in chemistry, mathematics, and technical drawing. He participated in various sports, including athletics, cross-country, soccer, and chess, competing even at a level of provincial level in chess and cross-country. Professor Telukdarie was privileged enough to commence his first job at BHP Billiton in Richards Bay with the startup of the Hillsides smelter. He subsequently lectured at DUT, Durban University of Technology, Chemical Engineering. Here, he completed his master's and PhD in chemical engineering with deep interest in artificial intelligence and modeling. Professor Telukdarie received an NRF scholarship to complete his doctorate in collaboration with Wayne State University in the USA. In 2007, he joined Sasol as a senior engineer, manufacturing, and was soon promoted to senior manager. He has also had the privilege of heading up the design phase of the USA Lake Charles MES implementation. He took a voluntary retrenchment from Sasol at the end of 2014 and joined the University of Johannesburg in 2015. Professor Telukdarie has consulted on many projects, including the largest uranium mine in Namibia. He has also integrated, he also integrated mining system and was part of the design team. He has held various projects with the Danish government and UNIDO, projects including system design and integration together with optimization and cleaner production. At UJ, he has worked on various initiatives including GES 4.0 and many other projects such as the DevLand project. He has completed various industrial projects and currently has a research chair with the Food and Beverage Manufacturing SETA. Professor Telukdarie has published over 150 conference proceedings and over 40 journals, and he has produced over 90 master's and PhD students. His research interest focuses on modeling and optimization of businesses. This includes large corporations and small, medium, and micro enterprises. He has various projects internal to UJ and externally focusing on a variety of areas from business, mining, water, health, childhood development, petrochemical manufacturing, waste, and recycling. I trust that with this short biography, you are able to see the contributions that Professor Telukdarie has been making, and we believe he'll continue making as a full professor at the University of Johannesburg. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. A special acknowledgement to my students, the University of Johannesburg, the executive team in chamber this evening, Prof. Swart, Prof. Mashao, Prof. Babu Paul, and a special acknowledgement to my family and friends, and to all those online. Once again, a very good evening to everyone. I take this opportunity to present some of my work relative to me or on the path of me becoming a professor. The key focus of my research is on business systems optimization specific to the first industrial revolution. Before we start, just a little bit of a background to who am I as a person. It is very important to acknowledge what drives people, what is at the core of an individual. Generally, professors make significant sacrifices in order to deliver the education of a young individual. As a personality, I take inspiration from Mother Teresa and Mahatma Gandhi. In the service of mankind, we find great pleasure, and we can easily lose ourselves in the service of mankind. It's also very important to understand that the education of a young individual, be it a child or our youth, is essential for the success of our country and the world. It is also our approach in which we achieve these goals that's very important to me. And the words of Mahatma Gandhi stands out in the way we achieve our goals. And it's in a gentle manner that we should achieve the success that comes with life. I would like to just provide a very brief outline of my work. I will focus a bit on the philosophies that drive some of my research. I will conduct an introduction into the background, skills and knowledge that drives this research. I will focus on some of the projects and some of my future work. The core of my research is signed off at the bottom of the slide in front of us, and that's about advancing a cognitive enterprise, making an enterprise more aware through data and simulation. A very quick summary. Some of my work, or all of my work, has been focusing on business modeling and business optimization. This has focused on various sizes of enterprises. This includes large enterprises or multinationals, medium and small enterprises, and micro enterprises. The focus on my work on the highest level is about the optimization of energy, outputs, quality, people, operations, and focusing on the circular economy. We have done various projects in various areas, including mining, healthcare, logistics, water, and even in the social sciences and childhood development. My particular focus is in the food and beverage manufacturing sector. I would like to get into some of the details of what drives my research and some of the projects that I've been working on in the last few years and will be focusing on into the future. The University of Johannesburg is privileged and has significant infrastructure and significant drive towards the fourth industrial revolution. And it is indeed my privilege to be part of this excellent team driving advancement. My work on business optimization, systems, and modeling focuses on various best practice outputs in the area of 4IR, specifically to a business. We focus on how to improve productivity of a business, and that's a key KPI of most businesses. We look at forecasting accuracy. We model and simulate in order to help the businesses make decisions on how they can, achieve maximum value through forecasting and predicting. We look at various other aspects of the business, including the maintenance aspects, the cost, quality, etc. But these I will unpack as I go through my presentation. Just in terms of an initial point to explain some of the best practices. The slide on the right, or the part on the right, indicates what we call the Purdue reference model with the two triangles. It's an international best practice that defines business as a whole or as a collective. Business as a whole initially starts at the lower level, which is the sensor level, where we collect our data. It goes through the hierarchy of intelligence, systems, operating systems, right up to an ERP, which is a more strategic system, and then obviously your business intelligence. My research is based on this fundamental, which is referred to as the Purdue reference model, or sometimes the ISA model. Essentially, we focus on the entire hierarchy of the business with a specialized focus on the integration of data through the structure, looking at the triangle next to it on the right, and the integration of systems through the structure of the business. So the question is, what happens when we model these businesses from the lower level, the sensor level, to the strategic level. And the tables on the slide has some indication of the quantification of magnitude, the different systems, the number of steps involved in the activity in these systems, the business activity, etc. The bottom right, which is referred to as table 1, is an indication of sequencing of the business, the activity performed, and the order of magnitude, usually in the order of magnitude of 10 to hundreds of thousands of activity that we base our models on. This is the core fundamental, and we look at the entire business structure. Some of the initial work in this area focused on the integration, the data transfer, and the movement of activity throughout the business. And this was where some of the work initially started, focusing on the manufacturing layer or the middle layer of the business. This work has since migrated and evolved significantly beyond the basics of the integrated enterprise into fairly complex modeling. We use a fundamental in our modeling processes which refers to the activity performed at every step or every function of the business. So if you take maintenance as the function, we look at the activities performed in the maintenance sphere and how it links to other areas of the business. The best practice in this area to capture these activities is business processes, and this is the backbone on which our model is structured, or our models are structured. Business processes have best practice design fundamentals which we follow throughout the modeling of our business. And I will explain in a short while how we construct our models around the business processes or the sequencing of activity around a business. I apologize for the very busy slide. Essentially, there are various 4IR tools that, when adopted, maximizes the benefit to a business, be it a small enterprise, medium, or large enterprise. We integrate or we adopt most of these models in our predictions of optimizations of any business. Simulation is the key. For my team, in terms of our research and our focus, we focus on various types of simulations, from discrete event modeling and various other tools in order to achieve our goals. A fundamental of my research work is the aspect of integration of activity, integration of the business, and integration of systems across the business, of which I will discuss a bit more as we move along. I would also like to start by discussing some of the boundaries of my research work. We talk in my research area of a digital enterprise or a digital enterprise modeling. This is around the various aspects of an enterprise, from sensor to ERP to strategy, and it is about the reporting, the data visibility, the automation of activity that's performed at all of these levels, and the ability to predict and optimize all of these activities. It's about the integration of these activities and the ability to define the systems that come together to optimize the business. I think I've spoken a lot around the theories and the practices, but a graphic speaks a million words. Essentially, on the left, we have the list of systems that come together that formulate the basis of the research work that we do. We look at the various systems on the enterprise level, from the finance system, logistics, maintenance, operational systems, quality, etc., on an ERP, and which most of us identify to be something like a SAP or an Oracle. We then go down the enterprise to a more operational or real-time set of systems, which is known as the manufacturing systems. And these can include the logistics execution systems, the quality systems, etc. And moving down towards the sensors, which actually collect the data to enable all of the systems across the hierarchy. In the modeling that we focus on the collective of all these systems, their integration, their activity, and how to maximize business value, predict which system will drive optimization, and automation of which activity will maximize the business output. In our modeling, we look at obviously the business model overall in terms of what's to be achieved, the integration of the business, KPIs, automation, and culminating in artificial intelligence or advanced decision making. One of the papers that we've produced that has the highest citations currently builds on the concept of an integrated enterprise, but with a global footprint with multiple sites, and the ability to design these systems in such a manner that we separate functionality on a particular site and head office, bringing together the accumulation of various systems so that a global enterprise can maximize its value, its visibility, and its operational output in real time. It's a mere collection of the systems and the modeling of these systems in order to achieve these maximum values. Some practical examples of some of the projects we completed. There were 4 projects that I'm just highlighting very quickly. The top left is a water project that we were working with a local water entity, looking at setting up the design for a collection of systems for maximizing value in the water environment, reducing water losses, and optimizing maintenance. The slide on the right is a project that we just completed in Namibia on a uranium mine. The slide on the bottom is also a mining project that was completed recently. And interestingly, the bottom left-hand part of the slide is looking at how we can take this integrated set of systems into the social space, looking at skills and the contribution of skills into an integrated enterprise, collecting data on the ground at various communities and looking at how we integrate that data into the data structures of an enabled enterprise. One of our pet projects, or our newer projects right now, is looking at the concept of an integrated enterprise with the full knowledge that larger entities have the capacity, financial backing to conduct complex projects, but smaller enterprises certainly don't. One of our projects right now, or a few of our projects right now, is looking at how we can provide these functional systems as a service to smaller enterprises as a shared service model, integrating smaller enterprises from a functional perspective into systems so that they can maximize output of these individual enterprises. But more critically, linking the smaller enterprises into the larger enterprise systems so that we can integrate and maximize their value in the bigger enterprise space. This project has got various legs, and I will discuss it in detail in a short while. So moving on to how we conduct our modeling of the various businesses and the operations. Certainly, an aspect that we focus on is not limited to the energy aspect, the people aspect, the environmental aspect, but we focus on integrating all these aspects into the business models that we set up, and we look at what we call the triple bottom line, and we focus on modeling some of these or all of these in an integrated business. Getting into the details of exactly how we do this. The basis, as mentioned, is business process science, where we collect the activity of the business, we set up a simulation, excuse me, followed by what we would call a specialist design. In some cases, it's a vectorial model, where we would create relationships between the variables that affect the business and the outputs of the business. These then allow us to constitute what we would call a multi-objective model, a set of functions that represent the business, and then we collate all of these together to represent the holistic business, and we call that the overall business model. Once we've developed such a overall business model, we then look at what do we seek to optimize at this particular business, be it the energy, be it the time to execute activity, be it the environmental impact, or any other variable. Adopting the models that we've developed, we reverse engineer and identify those variables that can be maximized in the business so that we can actually achieve that new business state or the new target for that particular business. So it's a very interesting approach, but requires a significant amount of effort. Just to understand how we unpack this, at each business model stage or at each process sequence, we identify the input, be it energy, people, time, or resources, and we use this in the execution of a discrete event model or a system dynamic model, depending on what we require as an output. Some indications of the equations and models that we've set up, which we set up recently, where we look at the economic model combined with the environmental model and a social model, and these come together for us to create multi-objective optimization equations on which we focus on and look at the new optimized state of the business. Getting back to some of our strategies. In terms of a business, we follow various protocols in the constitution of the business based on its activities. Essentially, we landscape the business, we look at digital substitution in the business, we look at new technologies, and we roadmap what's to come and what's possible in the business. We forecast. We look at the entire life cycle of a business. This is a water business that we were looking at, from starting with the business model through international best practice and looking at some sort of plan to guide executives in terms of the effectiveness of various substitutions, various technologies, and various changes in the business so that they can make an informed decision on what happens at that particular business based on change. How do we do this? On the top left of the slide, we have an example of business processes, one screenshot of the sequencing, and you'll find that they are linked and interdependent because a business usually works in such a manner. We then, once we've mapped the business and signed the business off, we then data gather on the activity on the right in gray. We find the activities, we call those our data gathering tool, and then we set up our simulations and we look at what can be optimized in that particular business. We also use various other tools, user interfacing tools. When a business is fairly complex, we look at, on the right we have an example of a data gathering instrument where we'll clarify the various equipment used on the site, and on the left we have a heat map. We start to do an initial analysis of the energy, the people, the resources, etc., and we heat map to identify opportunities, and then we go into the details of what we can do based on these opportunities. I have an example in front of us of a summary table. We have the hierarchy of the company across the top, the various role players, the activity in bold coming down, and then we highlight in bold which activity is most resource intensive for which resource in the company, how long does it take to complete the entire activity is also highlighted, and these are initial focus areas that we guide the company to optimize. In terms of looking at some of the details of some of the calculations and the outputs, a scenario around water where we looked at various scenarios on a low, medium and high pressure system. Also, its environmental impact based on the substitution of IoT or various field drives or any combination of technologies into the system, and its impact on the energy, the environmental impact, the volume impact on water loss, etc. So we can basically predict based on individual variables or multiple variables how we can optimize a particular business once we've constituted the business process model or the activity model. We can also predict the impact of multiple variables at the same time, and hence the multi-objective optimization, and an indication of some of the variables that we adjust and some of the outputs is illustrated at the bottom table on the overall business improvement index, and we can improve, as we can see, 15-20% has been achieved as a forecast in terms of adjusting variables across the entire business. A special focus on the food and beverage industry, where we've applied some of the business process models and various other models that we've managed to build. And just a very quick highlight of this industry, using system dynamics, we've adapted the various spheres of the business. I apologize, it's very small. We adjusted the function areas, quality, health and safety, human resources, planning, etc., and looked at how we can create these functions in a digital platform that will enable small enterprises. And this predictive model has two legs. It has a South African scenario and an international scenario. It's also broken down into the different facets of the business, from a concept where an entrepreneur usually starts, through developing a business, through sustaining a business, and we model these in order to achieve different outputs. We looked at international drivers and barriers, South African specific drivers and barriers, and we can actually predict which of the international drivers can achieve better results relative to the current South African drivers, and we are making informed decisions based on this with a specialized focus on small enterprises and achieving maximum benefit of predicting what we need to do. In the food and beverage industry, our key funder, the Food and Bev SETA, focuses on skills development. We set up a similar model using business and predictions on skills, and we looked at what are drivers and barriers internationally and what are the drivers and barriers domestically. We set the same baseline and we looked at how it will drive change over a period of time. And we can see that some of the international drivers are more successful than some of our South African drivers, and we are advising accordingly. One of our key mandates, as mentioned in the CETA, is the ability to model and to develop forecast models for skills. One of the fundamental challenges is what skills are coming into the future. For this particular project, we looked at being guided by international publications, so we extracted around 800 to 900,000 journal papers, and we did some data crunching around these in order to forecast what areas are growing and what areas are not. On the right, in the bottom, we can see a heat map of the different areas, such as engineering, data science, etc., their growth and their decreases over the last 20 years. And on the right, on the top, we can see some of the key skills that we've identified through this project that are actually future skills. And this has been incorporated in some of the strategies of the food and beverage CETA. We did a 5-year forecast, 10-year and a 20-year forecast based on historic data. A very interesting output that will guide us in terms of what new skills are coming in terms of the CETA requirements. We also did some baseline modeling in order to understand the TVET and its impact, specifically to manufacturing and the food bev CETA. A very interesting study in terms of looking at how the CETA can leverage its fundamentals in order to achieve greater impact of TVET graduates in the manufacturing space. And we found mechanisms, drivers and barriers that could be leveraged in order to achieve maximum growth, with a focus also on growing small enterprises in the sector. There were various models incorporated, including simple reinvestment by the CETA, simple models where we had attrition of the manufacturing CETA to other functions, and other models where we looked at TVET graduates moving out of that space and moving into other spaces. So it's a predictor that helps us to look at what additional skills we required for our TVET graduates. I want to very quickly discuss and summarize some of my current research work. We are focusing on using the modeling, the business process science, etc., to focus on digital value chains. We are currently building a PGM value chain, global value chain, and predicting supply and demand. We are looking at circular economy, generating predictive models on which waste streams can actually be reused, maximized, and create new entrepreneurship, new small enterprises. And we're looking at some of the waste sites across the Johannesburg area. We are focusing on healthcare systems. We were very fortunate to secure a significant grant in this area, focusing on maintenance of these healthcare systems. And we are now modeling to predict optimization of the maintenance sphere relative to healthcare systems and operations of hospitals in terms of energy and other variables. The food and beverage industry, various interesting projects on the go. We're looking at, obviously, overall business systems, substitution of 4IR technologies into that space to maximize manufacturing in that space, skills modeling. And we're developing a micro platform relative to the business or the small enterprise model that I spoke about earlier. We are focusing on small enterprises. We have significant funding to collaborate with a UK university to extend this project and to apply it in the South African context. We are focusing on various other enterprise and small enterprise projects. Our key focus is on enterprise modeling and predicting where we can maximize value across the enterprise value chain. I want to highlight very quickly two of the most interesting projects that we are currently working on. In the space of enterprise, it is extremely difficult to maximize output of that enterprise based on KPIs. It becomes very emotional. Lots of people feel very strongly about what KPI drives a business. We set up a mining enterprise. We broke out all the relationships of the KPIs, and we restructured based on data and analytics, and we built new data-centric KPIs for this mining institution. We were able to classify them into KPIs that drove production, maintenance, finance, etc. And this did not receive input from employees of the business, but it was data-centric. We took 3 states of the mine, from startup to stabilization and operations, and we found different KPIs were applicable at the different times in that particular mine, and we're looking at how it can be applied to optimize decision making at a particular mine. One of the most interesting projects that we are working on is the ability to predict through a system dynamic model, as indicated on the screen, based on the different functions that we have at a business between quality and operations and logistics. What would be the drivers, external and internal? What would be the limitations, internal and external? And what would be the outside secondary factors that would lead to successful or strengthen the implementation of a collection of integrated systems at a particular large or medium-sized entity? We looked at how we can model the readiness of various systems combined with the readiness of the business, the maturity of the business, external skills, internal skills, and how it would lead to maturity and successful implementation of digitalization across the entire enterprise. This project is currently being written up as a journal paper and a very interesting approach to bring a collection of projects together. I hope I haven't taken too long, but thank you very much for listening to my long talk. A special word of gratitude to the University of Johannesburg for providing such an enabling atmosphere, culture for us to do research. My students, a special thank you for their dedication and completing of their tasks and contributing to my research area. UJ and the collaborators that I'm involved in, internal, externally and internationally. And obviously and most importantly, our funding partners, the Foodbev CETA, the Royal Academy of Engineering, PEATS, TIA and the NRF. Thank you very much.
Good evening. It is an honor to be a respondent at the Professorial Inauguration of Professor Arnesh Telukdarie. Professor Telukdarie's research currently focuses on business with a specific focus on digital systems and systems modeling. His work includes small, medium and large businesses from multinational to low-income and community-based enterprises. Professor Telukdarie focuses on simulation for optimization, introducing modeling to simulate business activities with statistical mathematical data systems and optimization techniques. His industrial experience has helped him reinforce direct benefits to businesses and communities. He has developed unique tools to assist business optimization with predictive capacities to guide decision making. Professor Telukdarie has implemented various projects, including projects in industry, at the university and in various entities. Adoption of 4IR tools is always a challenge, with skills specific to understanding of 4IR, implementation of 4IR, benefits of 4IR and the potential of 4IR. Professor Telukdarie's work focuses on all the above, with specific focus on modeling the business or value chains of businesses. A focus on simulating and modeling to define the potential benefits of 4IR. The world of digital transformation includes the adoption of simulation. Professor Telukdarie has developed various business models, including in mining sector, energy, education, SMMEs, logistics, healthcare, and last but not the least, food and beverages. With various optimization opportunities identified, some of these models have been adopted for the informal economy with a focus on small enterprises. Digital tools have been developed and adopted for childhood development, skills development, and entrepreneurship. Together with his external funding, he has trained a significant number of masters and PhD students. His global network has resulted in attracting prestigious funds and grants. Thank you.
I think as we've listened to Professor Arnesh here, many of you would have seen this beautiful red robe gown here behind me. And what we are going to do now, ladies and gentlemen, is we've listened to our inductee. He showed us he's a true scholar. He's impressed us with his knowledge and the work that he's doing. And what we're going to do now is we're going to robe him and cap him, and that denotes that the professorship has been formally assumed. I call on the Dean to help him, and Professor Arnesh, if you would just go forward, please. Many congratulations, Professor Arnesh, and welcome to the group of scholars, of full professors at the University of Johannesburg. I think it's a real shame that in this period of COVID that we could not have had a full audience to put their hands together for this wonderful presentation that you gave us here tonight. But we really valued it, we really appreciate it, and I know that everybody, even if they're not present here, have put their hands together for you. Thank you very much, and once again, many congratulations. When you made your opening statement, you used the words that there's been many sacrifices made when you spoke a little bit about yourself. And I just want to highlight that the journey of an academic to become a full professor really do require many sacrifices. It's a lot of hard work, it's a lot of commitment, it's ongoing inputs, it's ongoing challenges. But we want to thank you as your university that you've pursued that route and you've kept it going hard, you've made those sacrifices. And we're really privileged to have you here with us as a full professor tonight. But I also need to highlight that as we walk this journey, as you as a scholar that worked this journey would not have been possible without your family that's present here with us here tonight. And I also, on behalf of the university, extend a special word of thanks to you for the role that you have played over the years. Because all of us know that to continue this journey, to make the sacrifices, it's not possible if we don't have the support of our family members and loved ones and the encouragement of them assisting us going on this journey. So it's truly valued and appreciated, the significant role that all of you have played over this years as well. Many thanks. It's much appreciated. Professor Babu Paul, your considered response is much appreciated, just reiterating the value that a colleague has added to the related domain. Professor Mashao, our Dean, once again, thank you for creating an environment also to your colleagues in the faculty where our colleagues could flourish to become full professors within our university. All our attendees that have joined in this wonderful event with us online, we thank you very much for your time as well in your busy schedule. And everybody that played a role in putting this event together, it's much appreciated. Let me then conclude by saying to everybody, do stay safe. Wear your mask, do keep social distancing, but very important, get vaccinated. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Have a wonderful evening. Stay safe. Thank you.